The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter. Hello and welcome to Politics with GA. The Independent National Electoral Commission has given assurances that funding will not affect the conduct of the 2019 general elections, which come up in a few months' time. The electoral body disclosed it's working and consulting with relevant government agencies to ensure that funds do not affect its preparations for the 2019 elections. It also disclosed that plans were in place to ensure all procurement processes for the election would be completed before next year's elections begin. The disclosure was made by the INEC National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Festus Okoye. The electoral body further said some of the processes and procedure for the 2019 elections are still being piloted in expectation of the signing of the amendment to the Act. The National Commissioner said INEC, as after the 2015 general elections, introduced creative, innovative ideas that would make elections in Nigeria free and fair. Comrade Adams Ashomale, the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, says any attempt by former President Olusegun Obasanjo to return to power by proxy will not succeed. Comrade Ashomale said this at the Sani Abacha Stadium in Kano on Sunday when he received members of the People's Democratic Party who defected into the ruling party. He described as empty the former president's claim that the PDP will dislodge APC from Asorok in 2019. Comrade Ashomale said, and I quote, "Obasanjo's dream to rule Nigeria by proxy will not succeed." Ashomale told the crowds of supporters. He further went on to say it is a wonderful day that all the progressives have come together to reinforce power to sustain our democracy. Never again should this country be governed by opportunists. President Muhammadu Buhari's constituency is the army of the poor. We are building a country where those who work will be able to eat, not those who use telephones to make billions without working for it. The People's Democratic Party has challenged the All Progressive Congress presidential candidate, President Muhammadu Buhari, to a live debate with its presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, on critical sectors of the country. The opposition party, in a statement released by a spokesperson, Kola Ologbodiyan, said President Buhari should present his future blueprint to enable the electorate weigh him alongside the party's presidential candidate. Mr. Ologbodiyan said Nigerians are aware that President Buhari has been mortally afraid of facing our candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, in a general debate organized by independent bodies. For this, the PDP grants him the liberty to choose a venue, date and time convenient to him to face our candidate before a neutral panel, he said. The opposition party insisted that President Muhammadu Buhari must face Atiku in person, adding that if President Buhari cannot face political debate, how can he vigorously engage in international competitors? PDP added that Nigerians are aware that President Muhammadu Buhari is mortally afraid of facing our own candidate, Atiku. In 2015, President Buhari said he was not ready to participate in the debate with the then President Goodluck Jonathan, stating that there was no basis for debate since the record of the PDP and the Jonathan administration is public knowledge. Concerned Nigerians under the aegis of National Christian Elders Forum, NCEF, have described the All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party as two evils that Nigerians should avoid in the 2019 general elections. The group has former Minister of Defense General Theophilus Danjuma, Professor Joseph Otubu, Joshua Dongoyaro, Archbishop Magnus Atilade, Kate Okpareke, and others as its members, made this proclamation on the APC and the opposition PDP. Chairman of the group, Mr. Solomon Sullivan Asemota, in a statement released with the scribe of the Christian Socialist Movement of Nigeria, Bosun Emmanuel, called on Nigerians to start seeking for new names in the politics of Nigeria. He said instead they should vote in leaders of proven integrity who had the interest of development of the country and the welfare of its citizens at heart. It will be recalled that the presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, once famously declared that the presidential candidate of the APC and PDP are both Siamese twins, failure and destruction.
Do you remember the chant across the country was anyone but Jonathan? Sadly, that is how we ended up with the current reprobate government. This time, it is anyone but Buhari. And by that, they mean that we should reinstate the failed PDP and its candidate, former Vice President Atiku, because they think that Atiku is the only person that can defeat Buhari in 2019. So, in 2023, when Atiku and PDP inevitably fail again because a bad tree cannot bear good fruit, then what? We will hear a new chant, anyone but Atiku? That is how we get looped into a cycle of insanity, repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. That cycle of failure is unsustainable, and it has to end now.
I spoke with Mrs. Eunice Atuejide, the presidential candidate of the National Interest Party, on her presidential ambition and plans for Nigeria if she emerges president in the 2019 elections. Thanks for joining us on Politics with GA, Mrs. Eunice Atuejide.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
First off, congratulations on your emergence as the presidential candidate for the National Interest Party.
Thank you.
What's your take on the political scene in Nigeria as we inch towards the 2019 general elections?
What's my take? I'm right there in the middle of everything, so I'm seeing things from a participant's point of view. And my take is it's not going to be an easy one, especially for those of us who are new in the scene.
And the outsiders.
And the outsiders, yeah. It's not going to be an easy one, particularly because we actually refused to form a coalition and work together. So we are all battling for little spaces. And these guys, these two horses in the two-horse race we usually have, they are miles ahead. So it's going to be a really tough one.
Are you excited, though?
I'm both excited and scared in a bit because I really wanted it to come to us this time, and it's just a little bit of hope that I still have.
They say a week is a long time in politics.
It is.
That brings me to this question. Was the Not Too Young bill instrumental in your emergence to contest for the presidency of Nigeria?
Of
and
course.
Why do you want to be president of Nigeria? Of
course, it was absolutely, in fact, it's the only reason I'm running, because I'm 39, and if not for the Not Too Young to run law, I would probably have had to wait till 2023. But the law came in right on time, so I could join the race before it was too late. And why do I want to be president? Nigeria is ready. Right now, people are not really interested in gender anymore. They really just want somebody who understands the problems of Nigeria and who has a clear vision of how to bring solutions. So Nigeria is definitely ready, both in terms of trying new faces, new hands, and in terms of letting a woman take the lead. So that's why I thought this was a great opportunity, and here I am.
You did mention that you understand the problems of Nigeria, yes, and you're in to find solutions. If you become president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, what will be your priority? What areas do you think we need to focus on as a matter of urgency and emergency?
Definitely everything in Nigeria is on an emergency scale, but I chose to look very critically at power, education, health, and security. Like, those are the first things, like immediately, in fact, from the day we win, before we even take the oath of office, we would already have a clear idea of who we're going to work with to make sure that the first 100 days we have serious results in education, in power, in military and general security of this country, and of course in the health sector. Those are like the primary areas that we as a party and me personally, we are very concerned and ready to take on.
So I'm sure you've heard this a few times, and a few people must have told you that, you know, Eunice, you could have started as a governor since it's your first time out in politics. You could have gone to the House of Reps or even the Senate, that you don't have the wealth of experience to lead a country as complicated as Nigeria. What do you have to say about that?
My response has always been the Nigerian politics doesn't need the kind of experience our politicians have, which is basically experience for looting. We need experience for leadership. We need experience for diplomacy, people who are able to look at problems from every angle and find a middle point where everybody can be happy, or even if not happy, at least able to understand and cooperate. That's what we need, and that's experience I have. Starting from the bottom, that's not for me. I didn't train myself to go and be a local government area chairman or whatever. I'm a nationalist to the core, and I want to start from where I am strongest, and that's in the rights in the center.
So you think going for the highest office?
That's the only thing I'm good for, and that's the only thing I'm going for.
Okay, fantastic. Now, you belong to a new breed of politicians. They call them technotricians, you know, technocrats and politicians, and people that are no longer comfortable with waiting on the sidelines. And then you're going against the old guard politicians. You did mention the duopoly, the giant behemoth of President Muhammad Buhari and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. Are you open to collaborations, or do you think you could go it alone? Since never in the history of Nigeria we had such a huge number of presidential candidates on a ballot box.
My entire
on the ballot
race,
paper, rather.
My entire race was centered around coalitions. Like, I worked so hard to get the new school politicians to come together and work as one unit. They refused to do it. And then I came in, and I actually, an NIP joined the coalition of, what's the name of the coalition? The CUPP, Coalition of United Political Parties. And we haven't left them. It's just that we are developing our race in such a way that whatever happens, we would always be independent.
Were you part of the pact in any way?
No, I wasn't part of the, I wasn't invited, but I'm not, I'm happy I wasn't invited. But my point is, to win elections in Nigeria, you need coalitions. I mean, look at even the APC. They have their coalitions. They are a coalition of several parties. Yes. The PDP, they have their coalitions. They take people from the APC. They bring the ones from the old PDP. They bring all the traditional rulers and church leaders. And then they look at all political parties that are new in the scene, and they lure us into a coalition with them. So I know that you cannot win the presidential election in Nigeria or anywhere in this world without major coalitions. So I'm definitely open to working with others, but I just don't want to lose my independence.
Is it too late now?
It's too late for those ones that do not have the kind of money that the two big parties have.
You won't drop your candidacy to endorse another candidate in the spirit of collaboration?
It depends. I'm always open to negotiations. So if there are negotiations that I see are reasonable, of course, I'll take it back to my party, and then we'll think about it and we'll make a decision. For now, I know I'm running the race to the end, but if something happens in the course of the race, why not? Like I said, it's not only about becoming the president of Nigeria, it's also about forming a government that works for this country. So it's a two-faced coin for me. Become the president so you can lead this country, or be part of the government that leads this country out of trouble.
Now, Nigeria, if you look at all indices, we're performing poorly, like you said.
Everywhere.
Everything deserves a declaration of a state of emergency. But one area people look at, and that's how you measure the progress of a country, is the Human Development Index, the happiness and the livability of the people. Are they living in comfort? Do they live in abject poverty? By the latest Human Development Index rankings of the World Bank, Nigeria is 7th worst in the world. That's not a very good thing. So what are your plans to improve our ratings on this and make Nigeria
a happier country?
Yes.
The thing is, if people have food to eat, people can go to hospitals and get treated. People can go to school because they've scored the points they need to get into school. You will find that these things will just automatically ease off, and we'll start to do better than we're doing in all the indices all across. So the thing is to open up the economy, allow the private sector to work better, like allow money to get to the people through the work they are doing, allow the kids to go to school, allow the parents to be able to do their work of parenting and not generally just be suffering every day. Get all that in place and we will automatically get away from all this negative poverty scale, development index. We are at the bottom of everything, and we don't have to be. We shouldn't be, because Nigerians are generally very happy people. We need very little to be happy. Good roads, good hospitals, opportunities to work.
So why are these politicians not doing it? And
because all they are interested in is just... No, but you have to understand that 90% of the politicians we have in government today don't care. They all got in there to take their own. They are only interested in filling up their pockets, which is why you see all the houses in Ikoyi with money on their...
But in 2015, if you flash back, there were a couple of politicians that were sitting in the same chair with you, in the same position right now, and promising these things. But when they got there, they did something else. Why should Nigerians trust you?
Nigerians should trust me because I have always been a person of integrity, and everybody who knows me know that I don't say it if I can't do it. If I tell you I'm doing it, I am doing it. And one thing I would not do is get in there and start to take money. I'm not freaked out by money. I'm a person of integrity in the strictest sense of the word. It doesn't mean that I'll judge you, but I won't let you take money from this country as long as I'm in a position to stop you.
Would you support an affirmative action for women and young people in government? Would you have a quota, or do you want it to go its natural course and just pick the brightest and the best minds? Or should we by law allocate certain positions to women and young people?
I am not one of those that believe that we must, by law, allocate percentages, but I would rather see a system that is open, give the opportunity, free and fair opportunity for everybody, men, women, young, old, whatever. Allow everybody to come in and compete. And I tell you, give the women a chance, like free, fair processes. You have much more women in power than you have men, because the women, they know how to do things. And they know how to gather people to support them. But you find that there's a system that generally just oppresses the women and then doesn't let them to compete fairly. And when they do win elections, they get cheated out of the processes. So take away all those, and you see a lot of our women will be out there. We had so many who were contesting, but unfortunately the political parties they went to refused to let them come out, even when they won their seats. The few places where they allowed free and fair open elections, you find a lot of women came out. Even in the APC, the places where they did direct primaries, the women came out. So my point is, free up the system, open it up. Young women, they will come in. They don't come in now because we deliberately prevent them from coming.
Finally, two-pronged question. How would you rate your chances in going against the APC and the major political parties? And the second leg of the question is, do you have faith in the Independent National Electoral Commission to be an unbiased umpire in conducting the general elections next year?
You're wicked, because now you're asking me to decide the election before.
No, I mean, you're part of the process from your observations from the elections that INEC has conducted in Australia.
Yes, I'm not going to give you percentages because I won't be doing myself a favor. And I don't like lying, so I don't want to be lying outright to my people. So I'm going to tell you, I have a chance.
It's a yes or no. Okay.
I do have a chance, a very good chance as far as I'm concerned, because there are so many indices that are never certain until the last minute. So I'm very good.
Yeah, like they say in politics, a week is a long time. Yeah.
In terms of INEC, I'm the Deputy National Secretary of the Inter-Party Advisory Council. So we do a lot of work with the INEC, with the Independent National Electoral Commission. And right now, we are influencing them a lot to help make sure that the coming elections are freer and fairer than what we saw in Ekiti and Osun states, and even in Kwara State recently. So I believe that by the time the election comes, we would have gotten what we need from them, and they would be able to be the unbiased umpires that they need to be.
So you're optimistic?
I'm very optimistic.
On that note, I would like to say a big thank you to you, Eunice Atuejide, presidential candidate for National Interest Party. All the best for your campaign.
Thank you, Gbenga. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Zimbabwe's former president, Robert Mugabe, is no longer able to work as his health declines, his successor said. President Emmerson Mnangagwa told the ruling party supporters at a rally on Saturday that the 94-year-old Robert Mugabe has been in hospital in Singapore for the past 2 months. He said he can no longer walk but will continue to take care of him, said Mr. Mnangagwa, who took over from his former mentor a year ago after Mr. Mugabe stepped down under military pressure. Mr. Mnangagwa said Mr. Mugabe was supposed to return to Zimbabwe on October 15 but was not feeling well. He did not give further details about Mr. Mugabe's condition. The former president is now expected to return to Zimbabwe on November 30th. Mr. Mugabe was the world's oldest head of state before his dramatic exit. A new alliance has been formed in the race to replace President Joseph Kabila in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Felix Tshisekedi and Vital Kamerhe, two top political candidates, have united and called for the opposition to rally behind them. However, other opposition parties had already reached an agreement to support another candidate, Mr. Martin Fayulu. Many commentators feel that if the opposition cannot reconcile their differences and unite, President Kabila's chosen candidate, Mr. Emmanuel Shadari, will glide smoothly to victory. Thanks for watching Politics with GA. I'm Gbenga Aborowa. See you next time. The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter.